My sister Emily flew in from Little Rock just in time for the celebration of the Freedom Rides. I was telling her in my excitement of my plan to dress up and act as a sort of human billboard in order to draw people into our events. In my excitement, I kept on about ideas of dressing up as a bus or singing freedom songs obnoxiously up and down Campus Walk, till she stopped me. Sadie, why not just talk to people? Her point would be reiterated throughout the week by two of the authors I now admire most, Raymond Arsenault and Andrew Lewis. In our Thursday afternoon discussion with Arsenault, he proposed the notion that people don't know the power of their own words. People tend to either say something ignorant without regards for its implications, or they refrain from saying anything at all, not knowing of the growing void they are contributing to. I was particularly drawn to his point that America has yet to bring justice to past abuses, as is the case of the store owner who killed a man, but went on as normal, as a town anecdote. In relaxing on the justice mission, America is failing to achieve the reconciliation it must before we can truly declare ourselves learned of the civil rights movement, of John Lewis or Julian Bond, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or James Farmer. Why are we so willing to move on, assuming time is enough to declare the movement victorious, as we each carry inside one story, 8, 20, that speak to the still existent tension surrounding racial issues? The idealist in me agrees with the people who just don't want to discuss racial issues because they don't want race to be an issue. So we go on with our well-intending colorblindness. But another part of me listens to John Patterson in the documentary film and truly identifies with the people and the cry of those who aren't ready to just move on, because the wounds of words like his, coming from the very people who we assume and are guaranteed protection from, are deep-cutting wounds. We cannot simply move forward jubilantly while this bitterness lingers still. I am learning through studying the Freedom Rides, even as it represents the many sentiments of the civil rights movement as a whole, that my responsibility, as a woman who just wants to move forward, to dare I say, get over racial injustice. Yes, it is my job to slow down, put self aside, and lend an ear. No, as a white Arkansan born in 1989, I neither committed the atrocities of those men and women surrounding the bus station and churches, nor did I sit idly by as others did in the name of segregation. I simply wasn't born yet. So no, it's not my fault that a group of so-called agitators got themselves hurt in Alabama or jailed in Mississippi. No, I don't suppose I should have to apologize to the hundreds of students, pastors, teachers, rabbis, blacks, whites, males, or females, for the need to drop their lives to spend weeks in prison because, to quote Dr. King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Perhaps it isn't my fault that there are things that happened in this country long before I was born that should be apologized for. But that doesn't change the righteous desire of many to hear a sincere apology. So before I good-naturedly embark on my colorblind quest forward, I have got to extend a race-conscious, sincere apology, or be willing to. My desire to hear that from Governor Patterson had me wanting to shout from the rooftops last Wednesday, "Shame on him!" And I am sorry if you think he speaks for me. If we so want to put race behind us as a nation because we regret it being such a huge factor of our collective story, what keeps so many from at least voicing that regret? Andrew Lewis touched on this topic in our Thursday morning discussion. He argued that what makes a person a great activist, an awesome advocate, often makes for a terrible everyday citizen. Is that the problem? Is race such a charged issue with such a marked history in this country that we feel like it's a topic for activists? Furthermore, is our placing a bus in the center of campus, my making a spectacle of myself down campus walk, fueling this image of race relations as too big to adequately handle, because we will not make progress in the area of racial conciliation if race remains the issue of activists. It is for the consideration of everyday citizens. If the Freedom Riders, who gave of themselves to share their stories last Thursday night, deserve praise, and I believe that they certainly do, it's for the work they did as activists to bring racial injustice to the consciousness of average citizens. I don't have to get on a bus today because I feel strongly about racial issues, and I have the Freedom Riders to thank for that. This is not an undue celebrity placed on them. But in a way, not having a bus to board makes it harder to take advantage of the right that they fought for 50 years ago. It means that if I'm going to be passionate about the legacy of the civil rights movement, if it makes me feel more passionately about the way I want to conduct myself in my life, I don't need a bus or a picket sign or even a button. I just have to talk. I don't need to sing loudly down campus walk in a ridiculous bus costume. I just have to be able to articulate to any given person why it is that I care so much about the Freedom Rides and racial conciliation as a whole. And then I have to have the presence of mind to stop and listen to others. And I have to take heart and know that all of this pondering of issues showcased by the civil rights movement, is getting us somewhere. Emily, my dedicated med school student of a sister, so concerned with details and concrete steps and accurate solutions, tells me on the way back to the airport last Friday, I'm so glad I was here for the Freedom Rides week. But all of this pondering of social theory, of right and wrong, conversation about injustice, is exhausting. I just want to be able to do something. That's the challenge, isn't it? Upon reflection, that's what Andrew Lewis, the documentary film, Ray Arsenault, and the Great Lives Lecture begged of us last week. Be stirred, yes, but then do something.